Hello, Mr. Hatchet. In the hopes that I didn't massacre your last name, I am Don Leach, and I am the uh, claimant in the case you find attached to this paperwork. I noticed that your first name is Donnie. I was raised as Donnie, and at this point in my life, soon to be 74, I do not have very many people who call me that. However, it seems to me that I'd like to strike a note of perhaps not friendship, but of a positive potential professional relationship. About 3.5 or 4 weeks ago, I started drafting a complaint against the VA, the Board of Veterans Appeals, Crawford as a named person, the Veterans Evaluation Service, and so on. The nature of that appeal was such, or complaint, I guess it depends on how one would look at it, would be one for a small multitude of failures over the last approximately 25 years. In it, I intended to sue my attorneys who are not my attorneys but are my attorneys, and the record explains that. And that would be Evan Snipes and Harold Hoffman from VetLag, who made representations that they would advance my case, take me as a client in this matter, and in fact did none of those things. And I outline in the briefest of ways in this letter some of their failings. And I was going to sue them for malpractice, but it would depend on what discovery brought to find out whether in fact it was merely malpractice or something much worse. The same with the Veterans Law Judge Crawford. I don't know if Crawford is he or a she, but I'll speak in terms for my convenience that Crawford is a he, just to make it simplex going forward. The issue with Crawford is that right from the very start, he screwed up on the law, he screwed up on the application of the administrative rules, he screwed up on that application over time repeatedly. I've had somewhere between 4 and 6 remands on this case for over 20 years. Each one for the same thing, him asking for the etiology of the case, which is not possible to bring forward at this time in a written form from when I went to the hospitals back in the day. And the reason why it couldn't be brought forward is the hospital destroyed those records. I provided the alternative, what the rules apply for, and he refused to accept that repeatedly. Each time he remanded it, he treated it as if it's a new case and put justifications in the file for that, when in fact it's not. I, as a practical matter, was on an expedited, I think expedited for the 4th time basis to get to the point we are now. So I started drafting the complaint, and about a week later, I had a COVID experience, and the file speaks for itself, but basically with the COVID, and it was my second time having it, my body responded in the form of a heightened troponin level, and so it appeared to be a heart attack. I went into ICU, and then from there to the COVID ward and got out. While I was there, I talked to various people about the COVID experience. And one of them mentioned something about perhaps I could talk to a resource person, and that pushed my button. So when I went back the other day for my cardiology follow-up, I walked right past the resource office, so I dropped in to see what's going on and if they could help me in this matter. And I have been down the path many different ways, and I've outlined that in the introduction in this letter. What I found was some documentation, electronic documentation, that indicated that my file had been completed, that I had had another decision back on July 8th of 2019. And that was a year and a half ago. I did not receive a copy of that decision. I wasn't afforded my appeal rights. I wasn't afforded an opportunity to read that. And it really pissed me off. My attorneys, who are not my attorneys, if they got a copy of that, they certainly didn't forward it to me. I did not receive a copy of it directly. And at all times, the board has had my correct address up until I moved out here, where I'm currently at in Arizona, the first part of November of this year, 2020. So 18 months without notice of what's going on. No accounting documentation, no anything. This is consistent with the pattern that's been in my case and why I started drafting the complaint. So let me talk briefly about drafting the complaint. I started my law practice. I graduated as an older student in my 40s. And I immediately started practicing civil rights. And there's a long story to go with that. I understand what a RICO complaint is, and I believe the elements are there enough so that I can raise a RICO claim. There's several other claims I can raise. I have no idea of the involvement of Hoffman and Evans, or lack of involvement, but I'm sure through the discovery process that would surface. As I'm laying in the hospital bed, struggling with the potential heart attack and the COVID, I realized that I had been premature. So when I checked out, and after talking to resource people, I came back and I talked to the resource officer or service agent or whatever he's called, Miller, who got this information for me to find out that in fact a year and a half ago my case had probably been settled and ended. I don't have a desire to sue in this matter at this point. I don't expect you to go to the voluminous file and search through that to find out anything that's going on. That's not what this letter is about. If that needs to happen, it'll happen at a later date. What this letter is about is, after almost 25 years, I think, somewhere between 20 and 25 years, it's time to bring this to an end. I'm entitled to, as a matter of law, a copy of that decision. And from that decision, I have a year to file a notice of disagreement, a nod, if you will. And that period has lapsed, and it shouldn't have. Did my attorneys screw me up? My attorneys, who are not my attorneys, but are my attorneys of record, because the administrative law judge wouldn't do his job and wouldn't rule on any of the motions I made over the last 25 years. I'm frustrated. So I get to the heart of the purpose of this letter. And the heart of the purpose of this letter is not to wait for another friggin' 5 years from the date of this letter. And that's why I send it to everybody in the world. Somebody should be getting this to the board. I think that you probably, due to what your title is, have a responsibility to do that. I think the VES, Veterans Evaluation Service, has a responsibility to do that. I think my attorneys, who are not my attorneys, have a responsibility to do that. And my hope is that board, when it gets it, instead of putting it at the bottom of the pile and let me wait another 5 years, will actually act on it, get me the documentation I have, make the accounting that needs to be made, and let us complete this and end it. And I want it ended. So that's why I sent this to you. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. In the military, I was an enlisted person and electronic spy, and I spied on Russia. The particular MOS I was assigned to at that time, we were assigned to it because we did not fit the military mold. We acted outside the military box in that we all had what's called a very high level and degree of spatial awareness. They want people who would think outside the box to improve their chances of success. And in that, if you can crack my classified file, you'll find that I was really good at it. When I went to law school, I'm one of the few people you will talk to who graduated from law school without an undergraduate degree of any kind. And I graduated from a highly accredited law school, Willamette College of Law in Salem, Oregon. I graduated first in my class, and I like to say it that way because I get to be my own spin doctor. I understand that leads people to believe that I graduated at the top of my class, but in fact, I graduated a semester before anyone else in my class. And when we walked to get our degree, I had been practicing law for 3 or 4 months. Had already had several successes in the civil rights arena. So I come to this at this point wanting to give you a flavor of what Don Leach is. And the reason for doing that is I'm in it to see it conclude, and I've taken the necessary legal steps so that my family can take my claim and process it and go forward. I've actually outlined what the several legal theories are that we have to sue on in the event this matter is not concluded before I pass. And it seems like every period that I go through, I get a reaffirmation that I am in fact in mortality, and that I may not be here much longer. I'd like to see this matter concluded. I'd like to get on with my life. I'd like to have this stressor out of my life. I've had 4 stress heart attacks in the last few years, and this has contributed to each and every one of them. The reality is, I don't want to fight anymore. I've remarried since my wife passed in June 20 of this year, February 20th this year, 2020. And I'd like to see this concluded. It would be really nice just to get a simple note from you, an email note that says, we're processing this, or we've instructed the board, or whatever you're going to do. But I see you, based on your title, in a position, not that you want to help me, but that you want to help the board, and your responsibility that you have as the lead general counsel to see this matter ended. I have done what I need to do to prepare myself to start getting some real personal satisfaction out of this if I have to live with it. I don't want to do that. I really don't. But I will. So I'm trying to think of what would be a reasonable time frame to give you an opportunity to do your part in this. And I know that it can be as simple as picking up the phone and saying, hey guys, or guys and gals, or however you want to act and however you do act back in your area. So anyway, I'm working on, as I sit here, this is unscripted. I'm just sitting here talking from me, hopefully to you. Because you're the only one in the list of people that I have as a list to send it to that I could reasonably expect, based on my past experience, that you might actually do something with this. Again, my name's Don Leach. I am the claimant. I've been in this for 20 to 25 years. I've had somewhere between 4 and 6 remands, each for the exact same thing. And it's not me that screwed up. I have never missed an appointment. I have never failed to respond. At all times, I've worked to build a correct, true, and accurate record. And the reason why is I learned long ago, not to trust government. I didn't anticipate that I would be here at this moment in time, functionally begging that somebody assist me in bringing this to closure. But here I sit, and I look forward to your response. I'll put this in the mail today or Monday. Today is Friday. But it will go in the mail today or Monday. I'm thinking a reasonable time to hear from somebody will be the Ides of January. So let's, I can't pull my phone out. I can't pull my phone out and look at and give you a particular date. So I'll write it. I'll redraft a portion of this letter, and I'll write in there a date that I expect a response from. And if I haven't had it, then I'll take my outline and I'll proceed to go forward, and we'll all dance the dance from there. I remember once I had I got a hair. I remember once I had I was a director of facilities along with a lot of other things. And I had another person who was working with one of the school districts. I worked at what's called an ESD, an Educational Service District. And one of the district offices, they had some plumbing issues. They found a potential area of rot, and so they asked one of the people that works for me to take a look at that. And they asked him how much it would take to fix it. And he didn't know, and he told them that they needed to do an assessment. One of the people on that particular school district board was a building contractor, and he says, "Oh, I know what it'll cost. It won't cost us more than $8,000 or $10,000." And Bill said to them, they asked him what he thought it would cost, and he said, "I can't give you a number without an assessment." And they kept insisting on a number, and he said he wouldn't do it, that it was professionally irresponsible. And he said, "But I can tell you a story," and this is a story I'm about to repeat to you now. When you're dancing with the bear, when do you stop? And of course they were puzzled by the question. And he literally pointed at the chairman's head. He said, "You stop when the bear's ready to stop." He said, "We need to do an assessment." Well, they went ahead with the other board members' recommendation, authorized for him to start the work, period. So they did the assessment after the fact. The first thing that happened is Bill crawled under the district office himself, and then he had other people do it because of what he found. They had set for approximately 30 years with that bathroom dumping on the ground underneath that building. They found black mold, they found rot, wet rot and dry rot throughout the bottom of it, and what could have been a real simple, inexpensive it turned out not to be that. Cost them over $100,000 to fix the bathroom because of the environmental requirements that went with that. I found in my practice of the law, and I was considered an administrative wizard in administrative law. I never had a client lose a case, and I did a lot of them before the state of Oregon. And I did several in the federal arena. And I, in fact, designed a resolution process for the Army Corps of Engineers, which helped bring a settlement for one of my clients. But anyway, the bottom line and the punchline to this is, once the dance started, you don't quit until the bear's ready to quit. That's when the dance ends. For me, the reality is that I'm in physically poor enough condition that I cannot, at this point in my life, probably maintain the legal action this would take to bring resolution. But if I'm forced to start it, I have taken the measures that I need to take to assure that my issue will live beyond me, and that my posterity, who would be entitled to the benefits of the resolution of this case, will in fact be able to receive that. As an attorney, I was better than good. As a business person, I was kind of really bad. I wasn't much of a business person. The legal aspect of things. Anyway, I made this email so you could get a touch of the flavor of me, that you could be motivated enough to take a quick look at this and ask some questions, one of which would be, why has this taken so long? How come a year and a half ago, when I should have got a notice of the last rating decision, I did not? The rest of it's kind of spelled out in this letter. My hope is you'll respond before the Ides of January, whenever that is. Again, I don't have a calendar in front of me. With that said, I ramble. I push my own buttons. It's hard not to go on a rant after all this time. I am going to, perhaps foolishly, look forward to a timely response, either from your office or to receive the notice that I should have received a year and a half ago, and in my ideal world, in accounting, so I can look at that, weigh it, and say, okay, this is done, let's go forward from here. What they did the last time when they did a rating adjustment is, after the decision, they did the accounting. And then they sent me the notice of the decision, the accounting, told me I had, I think, 30 days to accept that. Otherwise, I was in another appeal period. And I immediately accepted the decision they made. And almost immediately, within probably a week after that, or a week and a half, after they had received it, there was an award, financial award, and that was sent to my account on an automatic pay. I want an opportunity to see this and have that same 30-day window to accept it and get paid if there's any money coming. I really don't expect there to be much. I didn't get in this at the point I did and take the path I took for some unbelievable payday. I got into it to secure for my wife, because the expectation is with the health issues I had, I would die before her, the money that she would get upon my death. And in order for that to happen, I had to be 100% disabled. I had to have 10 years in. And I was 100% disabled already. I didn't have the 10 years in. In order to get the 10 years in, I had to have this matter fully closed. Little did I know the joke that was. And the joke was on me. And I'm having a hard time now holding back. My hope and prayer is you'll take a minute out of your busy schedule and somehow direct this so that you and I don't have to talk again in another environment. With that, with my hope and prayers that you during this holiday season can have joy and peace and health in your family and the health of your loved ones, I sign off for now. I am Don Leach, claimant in this matter. I do have an expectation of resolution while I'm still alive. Make it so.